She first started showing up in my dreams. Not in the normal way people say that, like, oh, well, I had a weird nightmare and now I'm spooked for a week. I mean, she arrived like a routine, like a shift, like something got scheduled inside my skull and nobody asked me. The first dream was so plain it pissed me off when I woke up. No monsters, no blood, just a kid's bedroom, the kind that screams someone tried. Carpet with those little plastic toy landmines scattered around. A cheap nightlight that threw a weak puddle of orange on the wall. A dresser with stickers half peeled. The kid in the bed was asleep, so hard you could feel it, you know? That heavy, open-mouthed, dead-to-the-world sleep with her basically a warm loaf of bread. And I wasn't in the room like a person. I was above it. I was watching from up near the ceiling, behind someone else's shoulder, like the camera angle in a movie when they want you to feel guilty for looking. It felt wrong instantly. The dread didn't build. It was just there, full weight, like my chest had been filled with wet sand. That's when I saw her. A woman just standing in the middle of that room, facing the bed. Tall in a way that didn't read as model tall, it read as wrong tall. Her hair hung in mangy black ropes down her back. Her skin was snow white, not pale like she needs sunlight, white like wax. Her neck was tilted to the side at an angle I couldn't stop staring at because it made my teeth hurt to imagine my own neck doing it. Like the bones had given up. I couldn't see her face. I was behind her, always behind her at the exact angle where her head blocked itself. But her body was clear. She wore this ragged white shirt that fell past her knees. Her calves and feet were bruised and dirty like she'd been walking around outside barefoot for days. It wasn't just dirt. It was that grounding grime you get when you've been moving through dust and old places and you never wash. Her shoulders rose and fell in this steady rhythm, like breathing but too controlled, too consistent. My eyes slid down her arms, and that's when the dream turned from weird into something colder. She was holding something in her right hand. A knife. Not a fancy one. Not like a horror movie prop. A plain kitchen knife. The kind you'd have in a drawer with mismatched forks. But her hand around it was ruined. Fingers bloody and cracked. Nails long, dark yellow at the tips like old nicotine, except thicker like they'd been gnawed and regrown wrong. She took a step toward the bed. It didn't make a sound. No creak in the floor. No brush of fabric. The room stayed dead quiet. The way rooms are quiet when you know you're not supposed to be there. Then another step. Each one so slight, it almost felt like she wasn't moving at all, and my brain was just catching up frame by frame. The knife lifted slowly above her head, ready to strike. And right before anything happened, right when my whole body would brace for impact like I was the one about to get stabbed, the dream would cut. Hard cut, like someone hit a switch. And I'd be back up by the ceiling again, behind her again, in another kid's room. Different posters, different toys, different bedding, same setup, same dread, same woman, same knife. At first, I try to talk myself out of it. Everybody has recurring dreams sometimes. Stress, bad diet, too much doom scrolling, whatever. I started going to bed earlier. I cut back on caffeine. I tried those stupid sleep sounds. Rainstorms, forest noises, whales singing like they're in therapy. Didn't matter. Every night, ceiling angle, kid asleep, woman in the middle of the room, knife in her hand, shoulders rising and falling, slow steps. Knife goes up, cut, new room. It became so normal that I started dreading bedtime like it was an appointment with someone who hated me. It wasn't just the dream itself. It was the way I woke up. Every time, I'd come out of it like I'd been holding my breath underwater. My sheets would be damp. My jaw would ache from grinding. My heart would be banging like I'd sprinted. I started taking notes at first because I didn't like the feeling of not being able to control it. Like if I could name what I was seeing, I could pin it down. I'd write down the room details, the toy on the dresser, the color of the nightlight, the wallpaper pattern, anything that changed because the woman didn't change. Then I started noticing what didn't change besides her. The timing. It was always the same length. I'd watch her take maybe 8 or 9 steps, no more. Always the same number, always the same distance. The knife would rise to the same height. Her shoulders would lift and dip at the same rhythm. The cut happened at the same moment, right when the blade was about to start its downward arc. Like the dream had a built-in sensor bar. Like my brain refused to show me the impact. Or like something else refused to let me see the end. Months passed like that. I'd still function. Go to work, talk to people, act normal. But bedtime became a job. I'd get into bed and my body would already be sweating because it knew. I'd lie there trying to keep myself awake even though I was exhausted because sleep felt like stepping into that ceiling corner again. The worst part is you start to adapt to horrors you shouldn't adapt to. There were nights where I caught myself thinking before I fell asleep, I wonder what room it'll be tonight, like it was a shitty TV show. There were nights where I stared at the ceiling in my own bedroom and pictured the exact angle where Dream Me watched from. There were mornings where I'd make coffee with shaking hands and try to tell myself it was just a nightmare, except it didn't feel like a nightmare. Nightmares are messy. They're chaotic. They morph. This was precise. Mechanical. I didn't tell anyone for a long time because it sounds insane. Hey, I keep dreaming about a tall woman with a knife hovering over sleeping kids. Yeah, great. That'll go over well at a party. The first person I told was my friend Nolan, and I only told him because he's the kind of asshole who doesn't freak out easily. I try to make it casual. I try to laugh while I said it. He didn't laugh. He stared at me over his beer like I'd just admitted something contagious. "You're watching her?" he asked. "Yeah, from above. Like a camera. And you can't move?" "No." "And you can't see her face?" "No." He rubbed his mouth with his hand, like he could wipe away what he was hearing. "Dude, you should talk to someone." "I know. Not me," he said fast. "Like a doctor. Or a shrink. Or a priest. I don't know. Just not me." That was the thing. I wanted someone to treat it like a problem with a solution. I wanted a checklist. I wanted pills. I wanted some label that meant it would end if I did the right steps. So I did. I made an appointment with a sleep clinic. The clinic looked like every medical office does now. Gray chairs bolted to the floor, a fish tank with cloudy water, a receptionist who talked like she'd swallowed a script. They asked me about my sleep hygiene. They asked if I drank alcohol. They asked if I had nightmares as a kid. They asked if I'd ever sleepwalked. I said no to all the interesting questions and yes to all the boring ones. Then the doctor came in, middle-aged, nice shoes, calm face, the kind of guy who could tell you you're dying and you'd thank him for being honest. I told him about the dreams. I didn't mention kids at first because that felt like a loaded word, but he made me be specific. So I said it, and I watched the exact moment his professional calm got a tiny fracture in it. He didn't react big. He didn't flinch. He just blinked slower than normal and took a deeper breath like he was backing up a step inside his own head. He asked, "Any history of trauma?" "No." "Any medications?" "No." "Any substance use?" "Just caffeine." He did the whole thing, talked about stress, about recurring nightmares, about the brain processing anxiety, about REM cycles. He recommended a sleep study. He recommended keeping a journal. He recommended guided imagery. He recommended a lot of things that sounded like he was trying to treat a leak with a tissue. And I grabbed onto that because it was something. Before I left, he handed me this printed sheet. Some generic sleep hygiene rules. It had stuff like avoid screens before bed and keep your room cool and don't eat heavy meals late. I took it home and stuck it on my fridge like I was actually going to fix it with a bedtime routine. That night, I still watch her lift the knife over a sleeping kid. Cut. New room. Cut. New room. At some point, I stopped counting the months because it was making me feel crazy. Time got weird. Days would blur because my nights were the same. Then, last week, the dreams started leaking. It didn't happen in some dramatic, cinematic way. It happened in a way that made me question my own sanity, which is always the worst way. I was at work, staring at my monitor, eyes dry from looking at spreadsheets too long. I blinked, just a normal blink like my body has done a million times. And for that tiny fraction of a second where the world goes dark, I saw her. Not the whole room, not the whole scene, Just a flash. White shirt, mangy black hair, knife raised. My eyes opened. I was still at my desk. The monitor hummed. Someone in the next cubicle laughed at something dumb. My coffee smelled like burnt beans. Normal, but my stomach dropped like I'd missed a stare. I told myself it was because I'd been thinking about it. Like when you watch a scary movie and you see shadows in your peripheral vision. Except I wasn't seeing in my peripheral. I was seeing it when my eyes were closed. I tried it again like an idiot. I closed my eyes on purpose. Her. Ceiling angle. Kid asleep. Knife raised. I snapped my eyes open so hard it hurt. My hands were shaking. I put my palms flat on the desk to anchor myself. I told myself, you're exhausted, you're stressed, you're making it up, you're whatever. But it kept happening. Anytime my eyelids shut, even for a blink, it was like that dream channel turned on. It didn't matter if it was daytime or nighttime. It didn't matter if I was standing, sitting, walking. Blink. Her. Blink. Her. It wasn't even the same room every time. That was the worst detail because it meant it wasn't just one stuck image. It was the whole loop still running. I started fighting my own blinking. You ever try not to blink? You can't. It becomes the only thing you can think about. Your eyes start to burn. The air feels like sandpaper. Your lids twitch. And every time I lost that fight for a split second, I'd get the knife overhead again. By day 2 of that, I looked like I was on drugs. My eyes were red. I kept rubbing them. I kept doing these weird, wide-eyed stares at people like I was trying to intimidate them. My boss pulled me aside and asked if I was okay. I almost told him. I almost said, no, I'm not okay, because when I blink, I watch a woman prepare to murder sleeping children. Instead, I said, migraine. He nodded like he'd already decided I was unreliable. I went back to the sleep clinic, and they couldn't get me in. Scheduling, insurance, bureaucracy. The receptionist said it like I was asking for a haircut. I got angry in a way that surprised me. I raised my voice. People turned. I could hear it, my own voice getting sharp and ugly. The receptionist's face tightened. She told me if I was disruptive, they'd have to ask me to leave. I left. I walked out into the parking lot with my eyes watering from holding them open too long. I sat in my car and tried to breathe. I blinked. Knife overhead. I screamed in my car. Just a raw, stupid sound. Then I started doing what everyone does when they're scared and nobody's helping. I made my own system. I wrote rules. Not sleep hygiene. Not mindfulness. Operational rules. Like I was trying to survive a workplace accident. I grabbed a legal pad and a Sharpie, so the words looked heavy. I wrote them like commandments and taped them to the wall next to my desk at home, because if I was going to lose my mind, I wanted the walls to at least have instructions. Here's what I wrote. I still have that page. The corners are greasy from my fingers. Rule 1. If you have to blink, do it twice fast. Never one slow blink. Rule 2. Keep at least one light on after sundown. Don't sit in full dark, even if you're awake. Rule 3. Never close your eyes to rest them. Not for 5 seconds. Not for a breath. That's how you slide. Rule 4. Cover mirrors after midnight. You don't need to see yourself right now. Rule 5. Don't look at children sleeping. Not videos, not ads, not real life. Invites the angle. Rule 6. If you see her shoulders moving faster, stand up immediately. Change your position. Don't stay seated. Rule 7. If you hear giggling that doesn't have a source, do not search for it. Lock the nearest door instead. 2 or 3 of those probably sound insane. Trust me, I knew they sounded insane when I wrote them. But when you're living inside something that doesn't follow normal rules, you start making your own. You start testing patterns like you're trapped in a broken game. Rule 1 was deceptively safe. It felt like a harmless little hack. Blink twice fast. Like I could cheat the system by not giving the image enough time to fully load. It worked sort of sometimes. If I blink twice fast, I get flashes instead of full clear scene. Like static. Like my brain couldn't sharpen it in time. That felt like relief, which is a dangerous feeling. It makes you bold. Rule 5 about not looking at sleeping kids seemed stupid when I wrote it. I don't hang out around sleeping kids. But the next day, I was scrolling, half-dazed, and an ad popped up for some mattress company with a kid sleeping peacefully in a sunlit room. My eyes hit it, and the ceiling angle feeling hit at the same time like a hook. I threw my phone across the couch, so hard it bounced. My heart was hammering. I didn't even blink, and I could feel the dream waiting behind my lids like pressure. So yeah, I started avoiding weird, specific things. I started living like my own superstitions were laws. I also planted reminders everywhere because my attention started slipping. When you're sleep deprived, your brain gets slippery. It goes soft. You forget what you're doing while you're doing it. I wrote, "Don't rest your eyes" on a neon post-it and stuck it on my bathroom mirror at eye level. Another on my laptop. Another on my dashboard. I started seeing that phrase everywhere like it was part of the architecture. At some point, the post-it stopped being a reminder and started feeling like a threat. By the middle of the week, my life was just strategies to stay conscious. Caffeine didn't feel like caffeine anymore. It felt like a weapon I was swinging with shaky arms. I drink coffee until my stomach hurt, then energy drinks, then those little caffeine shots that taste like chemicals and regret. I tried cold showers. I tried pacing. I tried slapping myself. I tried loud music. I tried keeping my eyes wet with drops so they wouldn't burn and force blinks. I also tried the more rational stuff. I went to urgent care and told them I was having visual hallucinations when I blinked. I didn't tell them the content. I just said violent imagery. The nurse asked if I was a danger to myself or others. She said it like she was reading from a form, but her eyes sharpened when she asked. "I'm not going to hurt anyone," I said. "I'm trying not to fall asleep." They put me in a little room with a paper-covered bed, bright fluorescent lights, a poster about hand washing. The irony of being under a poster telling you to close your eyes and breathe, or whatever, was not lost on me. A doctor came in, young, tired, and looked at me like I was another problem he didn't have time for. He asked how long it had been since I'd slept. "Not real sleep," I said. I'm not letting myself." "What?" I stared at him. I had this moment where I almost told the truth, and I pictured his face doing that tiny fracture thing again, the way the sleep doctor's face did. I pictured security. I pictured a psych hold. I pictured being strapped down in a room where the lights go off. "So elite." "I get night terrors," I said. "If I fall asleep, I have a panic response." He nodded like that made sense, like he had a box for it. He offered me something to take the edge off. I almost laughed. The edge off? The edge was the only thing keeping my eyes open. I refused. He looked annoyed. He suggested therapy. He suggested stress management. He suggested sleep. Sleep, like it was a warm bath. I left feeling worse than before because now I'd tried the official channels and they'd basically shrugged at me. That night, I sat on my couch with every light in my apartment on. It looked like an interrogation room. The air was stale from electronics and fear. My eyes felt like they had grit under the lids. I tried to keep my mind occupied with dumb stuff, movies, YouTube, anything. But the second my attention drifted, the dread would creep up my spine. I blinked and saw the knife overhead. Blink, knife, blink, knife. I started timing my blinks. I started bargaining with my own body. Just one fast blink. Just one. Okay, 2 fast ones like rule 1. Keep the image blurry. Don't let it form. And then, sometime after midnight, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic at first. It was just familiarity. I blinked and the room I saw was too close. The wallpaper pattern was wrong in a way I recognized. Not because I'd seen it in the dreams, but because I'd seen it in my life. When my eyes opened, I was still on my couch, but my skin had goosebumps. I blinked again on purpose, terrified and needing to confirm it. There it was, the same ceiling angle, a bedroom. My stomach twisted. I knew that dresser. I knew that stupid little chip in the corner. I knew the shadow the lamp made on the wall. I knew the way the closet door didn't close all the way. This wasn't some random kid's room. This was my room. The dread that hit me then wasn't the same dread I'd been carrying. This was heavier. This was personal. This was the feeling you get when you realize the thing hunting you finally found your address. And then I noticed the second thing that was different. In the dream, the kid is always asleep in the bed. This time, I was in the bed. I was watching the bed. I was in it. I could feel the sheets against my legs. I could feel the weight of the blanket. I could feel the mattress under my back. I opened my eyes in my real living room, gasping like I'd been punched. I didn't want to blink again. I didn't want to see what I already knew was there. But the pressure behind my eyes got so intense it felt like my lids were being pulled down by gravity itself. I blinked, and there she was, right at the foot of my bed, in my room, in that ceiling angle space where everything looks a little too crisp and too quiet. Only this time I could see her face. It wasn't like a jump scare. It was like my brain finally lost the right to censor it. Her eyes were darker than anything I've seen in my life. Not dark brown, not black, dark like holes. Like if you fell into them, you wouldn't hit bottom. Blood was trickling down from her forehead and her nose looked wrong, like someone had tried to tear it off. It hung there, half attached, like cartilage and skin were arguing about whether they were done. But the worst part was her mouth. The corners of her mouth had been sewn to her cheekbones. I could see the thread, dark and tight, biting into flesh. It pulled her lips back into a grin so wide it looked inhuman, like her face had been forced into happiness as punishment. And she was smiling at me. I'd never heard anything in the dream before. No footsteps, no breathing, no rustle, just silence. But now, seeing her face, I understood why her shoulders always moved. She was giggling, not loud, not a clear laugh, just a tiny, silent vibration of joy that made her shoulders bounce. Like she was laughing at a joke only she could hear. My throat tightened so hard I thought I'd choke. My heart was pounding so fast it blurred my vision. I tried to move and realized I couldn't. In a dream space, I was pinned, like the air was heavy, like the mattress was swallowing me. She took a step closer. No sound. Another step. The knife rose. I knew what came next. I'd watched it 1,000 times. The blade would come down and the dream would cut. Except it didn't cut. The knife hovered above her head, and for the first time, there was no abrupt mercy. No hard cut. No new room. Her giggling shoulders bounced faster. She was going to finish it. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. I tried to kick. My legs wouldn't move. I tried to wrench my head away, and my neck felt locked like a brace. She leaned forward, grin stretched, blood sliding down her chin. And the knife began its downward arc. And I woke up, real wake up, in my bed, in my apartment. Darkness, the hum of the fridge in the kitchen, the faint sound of traffic outside, my own breathing loud in my ears. For half a second, relief hit me so hard I almost cried. Then I remembered what had been happening all week. The blink visions. And my eyelids stupidly, automatically shut a little longer than a blink because my body was exhausted and it thought it was safe. The moment the darkness held, she was back. Not in some distant kid's room. Right there, in my room. Knife already up, arm already dropping. I saw the blade coming down at terrifying speed like the dream had buffered the motion and now it was playing it all at once. I shot my eyes open and the room snapped back to normal. Darkness, my ceiling, my own hands clutching the blanket. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just stared, eyes burning because I knew now the rule. If my eyes shut, she's there. If they stay shut, she finishes it. I sat up, shaking, and turned on every light in the apartment, even though it didn't matter. Light wasn't the barrier. Eyelids were. I stumbled to my desk and yanked open drawers with clumsy hands. I was crying without realizing it, hot tears rolling down my cheeks and making my eyes sting worse. I needed something, anything, some physical way to stop my lids from closing. My gaze landed on a roll of tape. Clear packing tape. Thick, sticky. My hands grabbed it like it was a life raft. I went to the bathroom mirror, ignoring my own rule 4 because I needed accuracy, and I taped my eyelids open. It hurt, not like a little pinch. Like ripping skin. The tape pulled at my lashes. It tugged the thin skin above and below my eyes. I layered it because the first strip didn't feel secure enough. The second strip made my eyebrows lift in a stupid, surprised expression. The third strip made tears pour down because my eyes couldn't blink to spread them. I looked like a man being punished. I sat on a bathroom floor at first because my legs wouldn't hold me. Then I crawled to the living room because the bathroom felt too small, too much like a place you close your eyes. I sat at my desk because it faced the door and I liked the idea of seeing the whole room. I kept the legal pad with the rules in front of me like it was scripture. The neon posted on my laptop glowed under the desk lamp. Don't rest your eyes. The words looked different now. Less like advice. More like an instruction somebody else had left for me. Like they'd known this was coming. Hours crawled. My eyes started feeling like they were swelling inside my skull. Tears ran constantly because my lids couldn't do the normal maintenance. The air from the fan made my eyes feel like they were being sandblasted. I turned the fan off. Then the room got hot and my sweat ran into my eyes and I couldn't blink it away, so it burned. I tried to distract myself with videos, but the motion on the screen made me dizzy. I tried to read, but the letters swam. I tried to listen to music, but every quiet moment between songs felt like the world leaning in to see if I'd fail. I started hallucinating small things, even with my eyes open. Shadows that moved wrong. The corner of my vision bending. My brain trying to insert her where she wasn't. I kept telling myself, if you keep your eyes open, she can't get in. That's the deal. That's the rule. But my body didn't care about deals. My body wanted sleep like it wanted air. The tape began to itch. The skin around my eyes felt raw. My lashes stuck to the adhesive and tugged every time I shifted my face. I tried to adjust it and almost peeled too close to my eyelid and panic shot through me, so hard I gagged. I went back to caffeine. I drank until my hands shook violently. I did jumping jacks in my living room, eyes forced open, tape pulling at my skin, tears flying off my cheeks. I paced. I slapped my own face. I talked out loud to keep my brain awake. At some point I called Nolan. I didn't even say hello right. I just said, I can't close my eyes. What? He said, annoyed, half asleep. I can't, I repeated. My voice sounded like it was coming from someone else. If I close them, she's there. Like, she's right there. There was silence, then his voice got sharper. Dude, are you high? No. Are you drunk? No. You're scaring the shit out of me. Good. I snapped, and I hated myself for it. Maybe then you'll actually listen. He started to say something, and I cut him off because talking made my eyes want to water harder. I'm not going to sleep, I said. I'm not going to let it happen. You need help, he said. I tried. You need real help. Hospital. No, I said immediately. The word came out too fast. I pictured myself in a dark room. I pictured a nurse telling me to rest. I pictured someone putting something in my four that would knock me out. No, I can't. You can't just stay awake forever. I know. I whispered, and my throat closed around it. He tried to talk me down. He tried to make plans. He offered to come over. I didn't want him here. Not because I didn't want company, but because I didn't trust myself not to blink in front of someone else and scream like an animal. I didn't trust myself not to grab him and beg him to physically hold my eyelids open. I hung up on him mid-sentence and immediately felt guilty and then immediately didn't care because guilt is a luxury. Time got slippery. I'd stare at the clock and watch minutes crawl, and then suddenly an hour would be gone and I wouldn't know what I'd been doing. I'd find myself standing in the kitchen with the fridge door open, light blasting my face, and not remember walking there. I'd catch myself swaying like I was drunk. Once, I jolted awake, eyes still taped open, because my head had dipped forward and my neck muscles had let go. It wasn't even sleep, not fully. Just a micro blackout. My brain shutting a circuit off to save itself. And in that tiny dip, in that moment where my focus slipped and the world blurred, I swear I heard something. Not through my ears exactly. Through the bones of my skull. A giggle. I froze. My whole body locked. My fingers gripped the edge of the desk until my knuckles hurt. The giggle didn't come from anywhere in the room. It wasn't outside. It wasn't from a neighbor. It was like the sound existed behind my eyes. Rule 7 flashed in my mind. If you hear giggling that doesn't have a source, do not search for it. Lock the nearest door instead. I stood up so fast my chair skidded. I went to my front door and locked it. Then I locked the chain. Then I checked the window latches. Then I checked again because my brain was starting to stutter and repeat like a broken record. I sat back down and stared at the legal pad, at my own handwriting, at the rules I'd made up to survive something I couldn't explain. And the stupidest thought hit me, simple and ugly. What if this isn't about sleep? What if it's about surrender? Because the dreams used to cut right before the knife came down, like something was stopping me from seeing the end. Like I was being spared. Now, there was no cut unless I forced it by snapping my eyes open. Now, the only thing between me and the blade was my eyelids and how long my body could keep them from closing. I checked my phone and realized I'd been awake for over a day. My screen said 1:47 p.m. and the sunlight through the blinds looked wrong, too bright, like it was mocking me. I couldn't remember eating. I forced down a protein bar because my hand was shaking too much to make anything. My eyes were in agony. The whites looked pink and swollen in the bathroom mirror. The tape had left angry red marks on my skin. My face looked older. My pupils looked too big. I looked like a guy who'd done something terrible and was waiting for the cops. I tried to remove the tape and reapply it, thinking maybe I could do it cleaner, give my skin a break. The second one strip peeled off and my eyelid twitched. Trying to blink, my whole body went cold. I slapped the tape back down so hard it hurt. I layered more on top like panic paste. I sat back at my desk and pressed the heel of my palms against my cheekbones, not my eyes, because I couldn't risk touching the lids. I rocked slightly. I whispered nonsense to keep my brain moving. Somewhere in the afternoon, I noticed the post-it again. Don't rest your eyes. It wasn't where I'd left it. I know how that sounds. I know the obvious answer is I moved it and didn't remember. Sleep deprivation makes you do that. You do things, and then they erase themselves. But I'd stuck that post-it on the bottom corner of my laptop screen, left side. It had been there for days. Now I was on the edge of my desk, right in front of me, like someone had picked it up and placed it where I couldn't avoid it. My skin went prickly. I stared at the sticky note like it might blink back. I forced myself to breathe slowly, because panic makes your eyes want to clam shut. Panic makes you rub them. Panic makes you do the exact thing that gets you killed. I didn't have a better word for it than killed, because that's what it felt like. The dream didn't feel symbolic. It didn't feel like metaphor. It felt like an action waiting to happen. And the longer I stayed awake, the more it felt like she was waiting too. Like she didn't need to chase me. Like she could giggle forever if she had to. I hit the 30-hour mark sometime after dinner time. If you can call it dinner time, when you haven't eaten like a person and your whole body is buzzing. It's been 30 hours now. I can barely see straight. My eyes are bloodshot and burning. Every time my vision wavers, my stomach drops, because wavering feels like the first step toward darkness. The bags under my eyes feel swollen, like I've been punched. I've tried caffeine. I've tried exercising. I've tried cold water, loud sound, bright light, pain, fear, anger, anything that might keep the switch flipped on. I can feel my eyelids fighting the tape. I can feel the tiny muscle twitches, the reflex, the body insisting. My head keeps dipping. My thoughts keep skipping. I'm losing seconds. I'm losing minutes. And every time my focus slips, I swear I can sense her closer, like she's moved one of those silent steps, even though my eyes are technically open. I don't know how much longer I can resist. It's only a matter of time. Nolan showed up anyway. I didn't invite him. I didn't even unlock the door. I heard him in the hallway first, the heavy knock, and then his voice through the door, louder when I didn't answer. Open up. I'm not leaving. Don't be a fucking idiot. I didn't want to move. Moving meant air on my eyes, meant the tape tugging, meant my lids twitching. But his knocking had my heart doing that jumpy thing. And jumpy hearts make stupid blinks. I got up slow like an old man. I kept my eyes pointed straight ahead, so I didn't have to process corners. My apartment felt too bright, too loud, like the lights were sizzling. The chain rattled when I undid it. The tape on my face pulled when I frowned. I opened the door and Nolan stopped mid-sentence. He just stared. He'd seen me hungover. He'd seen me after a breakup. He'd seen me after I got punched in a bar once. He'd never seen me with my eyelids taped open like I was in some hostage video. "What the hell?" he said, but it came out softer than he meant. "Don't," I said immediately. "Don't start with the what the hell. Just get in and don't touch my face." He stepped inside and looked around like he expected to see someone else. His eyes snagged on the legal pad taped to the wall, on the Post-its, on the open energy drink cans lined up like evidence, on the bright lamps pointed at nothing. He shut the door behind him. "You look like shit," I cut in. "Yeah, I know." He took 2 steps toward me. "You need a hospital." I told you no. "That's because you're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking straight enough to know they'll sedate me." "Maybe you need to be sedated." That word hit like a slap. Sedated. Put under. Lights out. Eyelids down. My throat tightened. "Get the fuck out." Nolan blinked hard. "Okay, so we're doing that. We're doing the hostile thing." "I'm not doing anything. I'm trying not to die." He scoffed, but there was fear under it. "You're not going to die because you blink. That's not a thing. It is now." He looked at my face again. The tape was shiny and wrinkled from tears. The skin around my eyes was angry red. My cheeks were wet. I could feel crusting at the corners where tears had dried, and I couldn't wipe them properly without risking my lids. "You slept at all?" he asked. "No." "How long?" 30-something hours. Jesus. He ran a hand through his hair. He was trying to stay calm, and he wasn't good at it. "Okay. All right. We're not doing a hospital." "Fine. We're doing what?" "This. You're going to sit here with your eyes glued open until you drop dead from exhaustion." I stared at him because staring was all I had. "That's the trade." He stepped closer, voice sharpening. "Listen to yourself." "I'm listening." "That's the fucking problem. I can't stop listening to it." He glanced at the rules again. He read them fast. His mouth twitched at Rule 4. His eyes narrowed at Rule 5 like the idea pissed him off. "You wrote this," he said. "Yeah." "Why do you think any of this matters?" "Because I tested it." He snorted. "You tested your double blink superstition. It changes what I see. You're hallucinating because you haven't slept." "And why haven't I slept, Nolan?" He exhaled hard. Okay. I'm not going to argue the whole thing. I'm here. I'm physically here. So let's do something that isn't this." "Like what?" He pointed at my couch like it was a negotiation table. "Sit down. I'm going to call a crisis line or something. Somebody who knows how to deal with people who are." "People who are what?" I snapped. The anger came up hot because anger is also a strategy. It keeps you awake. "Crazy." He flinched, then got defensive. "I didn't say crazy." "You were about to." "I was about to say you're not okay." "Nosleep." He pulled out his phone. My stomach dropped. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Getting help." "No," I said, and my voice went sharp enough that he stopped. "If you call anyone and they show up with a needle, I'm done. You get that? I'm done." His jaw clenched. "You think they're going to tackle you and drug you?" "Yes." "That's not." "Do you want to take that gamble?" I cut in. "Do you want to be the guy who hold my shoulders down while they make my eyelids shut?" He stared at me, and for a second I saw him actually picture it. Saw him actually register that whatever was going on, my fear was real. Not performative, not attention-seeking. Real. He lowered his phone slowly. "So what do you want me to do?" I swallowed. My mouth tasted like battery acid from energy drinks. "Talk. Keep me talking. Keep me moving. If my head dips, shake me. Not my face. My shoulders. If I say I'm going to close my eyes, stop me." "That's insane." "Yeah." He looked around again, like he was cataloging my apartment. Then his gaze snagged on the Post-it on my desk. "Don't rest your eyes." He picked it up, careful like it might be dirty. "You move this." "No." He glanced at me, skeptical. "I didn't," I said. "It moved." He laughed once, sharp. "Okay. I know how it sounds. He peeled the post-it off the desk and turned it over like he was checking for a punchline. His face changed. Not big, not dramatic, just a pause, a little stiffening around his eyes. "What?" I said, and my stomach tightened. Nolan stared at the back of the note. "Read it," I said. He didn't. "Read it," I snapped because the not knowing was worse than any answer. He swallowed and held it out toward me without speaking. My eyes tracked the back. There was writing there, different from mine, thinner, uneven like it had been written fast. 4 blinks. That was it. 2 words, all caps. The sound that came out of me wasn't a laugh. It was this little broken breath. "Are you fucking with me?" I said. "What?" "No." Nolan looked offended, then confused. "That wasn't there before. I didn't write that." I whispered. "I know you didn't. Your handwriting looks like a drunk cop." I stared at the note, and my brain did what it's been doing all week. It grabbed the detail and started trying to make it into a rule. 4 blinks. Why 4? Rule 1 was 2 fast blinks. That had been my save trick, my cheat code. 4 blinks sounded like a dare, or a sequence, or a key. My eyes burned harder, like they were protesting the idea of testing anything. Nolan watched my face. "Don't do whatever you're thinking." "I'm not thinking," I lied. "You are absolutely thinking." I set my jaw. "I need to know." "Why?" "Because something wrote this," I said, and my voice shook. "Because it moved the note. Because it's talking to me." "It's you," Nolan insisted. "It's your sleep-deprived brain. Then why doesn't it write me something useful?" I snapped. "Why doesn't it say take a nap or call your mom like a normal brain? Why does it say 4 blinks?" Nolan's eyes flicked to the rule list again. "Rule 1 says blink twice fast." "Yeah." "And now it says 4 blinks." "Yeah." He raised his eyebrows. "Maybe it's just your brain escalating. Like, 2 wasn't enough, so you wrote 4 to yourself." "I didn't," I said, and it came out desperate. He held his hands up. Okay. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying you're tired." I finished for him. "I know. I'm fucking tired." My head dipped a millimeter and my spine jolted in panic. Nolan saw it and stepped closer. "Sit," he ordered. "I can't relax." Sitting isn't relaxing. Sitting is not falling over. I sat, stiff as a board. He pulled a chair up opposite me, like we were about to have an intervention. We did, in a way. Hours dragged. He made me drink water. He made me eat real food, like toast, because my hands were too shaky for anything else. He talked to me nonstop, mostly about stupid shit, but every once in a while he'd slip and say, "You hear yourself, man?" And my anger would spike and keep me awake again. At some point, he asked me to tell him exactly what happens when I blink now. I didn't want to, because describing her made her sharper, like speaking her into the room. But he wasn't leaving, and a part of me wanted a witness. A part of me needed someone else to carry even a sliver of it. So I told him. I told him about the ceiling angle, the kid rooms, the steps, the knife, the cut. I told him about the change last night. My room, my bed, her face, the sewn smile, the giggling shoulders, the knife coming down faster when my eyes stayed shut. Nolan listened, and he didn't interrupt. When I finished, he swallowed and said, "Okay." It wasn't agreement. It wasn't disbelief. It was just, "Okay, I heard you." Then he said something I didn't expect. "You said you're always behind her," he said. "In the old ones." "Yeah." "And now you're in the bed." "Yeah." He leaned forward. "What if the point is you're not supposed to be behind her? What if you're supposed to see her face?" I stared at him. "What does that even mean?" "I don't know," he admitted. The pattern changed. Maybe it changes for a reason." I wanted to scream at him. Pattern. Reason. Like this was a puzzle with a prize at the end. But then I remembered the post-it. 4 blinks. I remembered the way the dream used to cut before impact, like something had stopped the final frame. Maybe Nolan was right. Maybe it had been shielding me until it couldn't. Or until it didn't want to. The air in my apartment felt thicker as the day died. Even with lights on, you can feel night coming. The outside gets quiet in a certain way. The building settles. The cracks in the walls sound louder. Rule 2 was keep a light on after sundown. Like that mattered. Like light was a mode. Nolan looked at the windows and then back at me. You got anything medical for your eyes? Drops? Something? Yeah, in the bathroom. I'll get it. Don't turn the lights off, I warned. He gave me a look like I was ridiculous, but he went and grabbed the eye drops. He hesitated in the bathroom doorway, and I realized why. The mirror. Rule 4, cover mirrors after midnight. I hadn't covered it. Not today. I've been too busy not dying to do the weird rituals. Nolan stood there staring at my mirror like it was making him uncomfortable. What? I said. He shook his head. Nothing. He came back with the drops and held them up. How do I do this without touching the tape? Just put it in the corner, I said. Don't pull. He leaned close, careful, and squeezed drops into my eyes. The relief was immediate and brief. The burning softened for a minute. Tears still ran, but at least it wasn't like acid. He sat back and watched me. You're shaking, he said. I'm fine. You're not fine. Nosleep. He looked at my wall again, at Rule 6. If you see her shoulders moving faster, stand up immediately. That one, he said, pointing. Shoulders moving faster. What does that mean? I don't know. When I blink and I see her, sometimes the giggle, like the shoulder movement, gets quicker. Like she's excited. Like she's close. Close to what? Close to finishing. He sat back and rubbed his face. Okay, so if it happens, you stand. Yeah. And then what? I don't know, I admitted. It just changed something before. Like I was interrupting it. Or like you were feeding it attention, he said quietly. That pissed me off again, which kept me awake, which made me hate him and love him at the same time. We argued. Of course we did. We're two guys in a bright apartment with a nightmare sitting between us like a third person. We argued about hospitals. We argued about whether I should let myself sleep in a controlled way, with him watching me, with him ready to slap me awake if I started to blink too long. You can't slap me awake if my eyes are taped shut, I said. We take the tape off, he said. If the tape comes off, I blink. She drops the knife, I snapped. You weren't there. You didn't see how fast it was. And you think you're seeing the future like some kind of fucked up weather report? He shot back. You think the universe is playing you clips of your own murder? I don't know what I think. I yelled, and the volume made my throat hurt. I just know what happens when my eyes close. I know what I saw. Nolan leaned in, voice lower and meaner. You know you can't keep this up. You're going to pass out. Your brain will shut off no matter what you tape to your face. I know, I said, my voice cracked. That was the moment he softened again. He sat back, and for a while we just listened to the hum of my apartment. Then Nolan said, tell me about the kids. What about them? In the dreams. You never see their faces. No, just sleeping. Anything else? Any pattern? Anything? I swallowed. They're all alone. Nolan frowned. What? In the rooms. There's never an adult. Never a parent. Never a dog. Never anyone. Just her and the kid. Why didn't you say that? Because I didn't notice until now. I snapped. Because I wasn't. I stopped myself. Because I wasn't looking for meaning. Because I was trying to survive. Nolan nodded slowly like that mattered. He looked at my fridge. The sleep clinic sheet was still taped there. The generic tips like avoid screens and keep a routine, mocking me with their normalness. He stood and went to it. This, he said. What? This doctor. Sleep clinic guy. You said he gave you this. Yeah. Nolan stared at it like he might find a secret message in the font. Then he did something that made my stomach drop. He peeled the paper off the fridge and flipped it over. What are you doing? I said sharp. Checking, he said. The back was blank. Nolan stared at it anyway, then looked at me. Okay, so the post-it thing was a one-off. It wasn't, I said. My voice sounded far away to me. It won't be. He put the paper back and sat again. He tapped his fingers on his knee. He was thinking. He was trying to solve it like a friend tries to solve anything, because doing something feels better than doing nothing. I'm going to stay, he said finally. I'm not leaving you alone. You shouldn't. Yeah? And you shouldn't tape your eyes open like a serial killer, but here we are. I almost laughed. It came out like a cough. Night fell. The windows became black mirrors. I hated them. I kept catching my own reflection in the glass, and it made my skin crawl because it looked like a person trapped in a bright box. We covered the bathroom mirror after midnight because Nolan insisted, and I didn't argue. He draped a towel over it like we were putting a sheet over a corpse. For a while, we sat and watched dumb TV. Nolan kept making me talk. He kept asking me small questions to keep my brain engaged. What's your password? What's the name of that teacher from high school? List every state you've been to. Stupid shit. Effective shit. But the longer it went, the more my thoughts started to smear. It's hard to explain if you've never been that tired. You don't just get sleepy. You get porous. Your mind starts leaking. Things slip through cracks they shouldn't. I started feeling the ceiling angle sensation without blinking. Just sitting there, eyes open, I could feel that above feeling like my consciousness wanted to climb up the wall and hang there. Nolan noticed me staring. What? He said. Do you ever feel like you're being watched? I whispered. He frowned. We were watching each other. No, like from above. He stared at me, then glanced up at my ceiling like it might have cameras. No, I swallowed. My tongue felt thick. Edo. Nolan sat up straighter. Okay, stand up. What? Rule 6. Shoulders faster, stand up. You said if things shift, stand. So stand. I haven't blinked. Stand, he snapped. I stood, legs wobbling. My head swam. The tape tugged my eyebrows into that stupid surprised look, and I hated it. Nolan stood too, like we were about to fight. Now what? He demanded. I don't know, I said, voice thin. He clenched his jaw. Try the blink thing. The double blink. If you have to. My stomach rolled. No, you're going to blink anyway, he said harshly. Better to do it on purpose than let your body do it when it wants. He was right, and I hated him for it. The post-it in my pocket felt hot, like it was burning through fabric. 4 blinks. I didn't want to do 4. For sounded like opening a door you couldn't close. But I also didn't want to die stupid, with my eyelids sliding shut in a moment I wasn't ready. So I did what I've been doing. 2 fast blinks. Dark flash, dark flash. The image hit like a punch to the brain. Ceiling angle. Room. Kid asleep. Her in the middle, shoulders moving. My eyes snapped open. Real world. Nolan staring at me. What did you see? He demanded. She's in a room, I said, breathing hard. Not mine. Not yet. Knife up. Yes. Shoulders. I swallowed. Faster. Nolan's face went pale. Okay, so what? We keep moving. We keep you awake. My eyes burned and watered, and my lids twitched like they wanted to rebel. The tape was holding, but I could feel the skin around it getting slick with tears. Adhesive hates tears. Tears loosen everything. I said, it's getting worse. Nolan's voice turned sharp. Then we do something else. We don't just sit here. Like what? He looked around like he might find an answer in my furniture. Then he said, we go outside. I stared at him. What? Fresh air. Cold. Movement. You'll stay awake. And it's harder to hallucinate outside, right? I almost laughed again. You think the sidewalk is going to save me. I think staying in here like a rat in a box is making it worse. He wasn't wrong. Being in my apartment, my room, felt like being in the mouth of it. Okay, I said, and my voice came out rough. Okay, shoes. We went outside. The hallway light was dimmer than my apartment, and it made my chest tighten. Dim light feels like the start of closing eyes. Nolan kept talking, kept me focused. He walked close to my shoulder like he was afraid I'd collapse. Outside, the air hit my face cold and sharp. It made my eyes water more, which was the opposite of helpful, but also slapped my brain awake for a moment. We walked fast, around the block, then again. Nolan kept me moving like I was detoxing. I started to feel almost human for a few minutes. My skin was cold. My lungs worked. My legs had a rhythm. The city noise gave my brain something to latch onto. Cars, distant voices, a dog barking, then a street light flickered overhead. Just once, a stutter. My stomach dropped, because flickering light feels like blinking you don't control. My eyes twitched. The tape pulled. For a split second, My vision narrowed. Nolan saw my face change. "Hey," he barked. "Stay with me." I lied. We passed a building lobby with a big glass wall. A couple inside were holding a bundled baby. The baby's head lolled against the woman's shoulder, asleep. Rule 5 hit like a siren. Don't look at children sleeping. My eyes caught the baby anyway. My stupid brain registered the soft, sleeping face and the posture and the fact that the kid was out cold and safe. And the ceiling angle sensation slammed in so hard I stumbled. Nolan grabbed my arm. "What?" I couldn't speak. My mouth went dry. My eyelids twitched again. It wasn't a full close, but my brain tried. It tried to pull down. And in that tiny fraction where the world dimmed, I saw her in my peripheral. Not in the dream. Not in the blink darkness. In the reflection of the glass. Tall. White shirt. Hair hanging. Standing behind me. I jerked my head so hard my neck cracked. There was nobody there. Sidewalk empty except us. I spun back to the glass. Nothing. My heart was trying to rip itself out. Nolan stared at me like I'd lost it. "What did you see?" "Inside," I said, voice shaking. "That baby." "So, I shouldn't have looked." Nolan's eyebrows knit. "Why?" "Rule 5, I whispered, and I hated how insane I sounded. "It invites the angle." Nolan's face hardened. "Okay, we're going home." "No." Snapat. "No, don't. Don't drag me back to my room like I'm already dead." He grabbed my arm harder. "You're shaking." "So are you." I shot back. And it was true. His hand was trembling on my sleeve. He swallowed. "We need a plan." "I have a plan," I said. Eyes open. "Don't sleep." "That's not a plan. That's an expiration date." The argument got ugly. We stood on the sidewalk under the flickering streetlight like two idiots in a bad scene. I felt myself getting more tired with every second, like the stress was eating my remaining fuel. A car passed, and its headlights washed over us, bright, then gone. Bright, then gone. Blink, blink. My brain screamed at the pattern. 4 blinks. The Post-it in my pocket felt like it was vibrating. Nolan saw my eyes go wide. "Don't," he warned. "Don't do something stupid. I need to know what it means." I rasped. "You don't need to know shit. You need to sleep." "No." "Yes. If I sleep, I die." "You don't know that." "I fucking know it," I shouted, and my voice echoed off the buildings. A window curtain twitched somewhere. Someone probably looked out and saw a guy with tape on his eyes losing his mind. Nolan's face went hard. "Then we do it controlled." "What?" "We take you to my place," he said. "I stay up. You lie down. If you start to drift, I shake you awake. We do it in 10-second chunks. Micro naps. That's a thing. It's how people survive." My skin went cold. "No, you're not surviving this," he said, voice rising. "You're barely standing right now." "I can't close my eyes," I said, and the fear in my voice was embarrassing and real. Nolan looked like he wanted to punch something. Then he did something worse. He stepped close and grabbed the edge of the tape on my cheek. "Don't," I said instantly. My whole body tightened. "I'm sorry," he said, and his voice sounded like it was breaking too. "I'm sorry, but you're not thinking straight, and I'm not letting you kill yourself with this." He yanked. The tape ripped away from my skin with a sound like tearing cloth. It hurt so bad I saw stars. My eyelid immediately tried to slam shut out of pure reflex, and I screamed. Nolan cursed and tried to hold my face still. "Open," he ordered. "Keep them open." "I can't," I choked. Tears exploded out. My lashes were sticky. My lid fluttered like a dying moth. Nolan's fingers were on my cheekbones, not my lids, but his grip was firm and his presence was close, and for a stupid second my brain went, "Okay, someone's here, you're safe." And then my eyelids closed anyway, just for a heartbeat. Darkness hit. Ceiling angle. My room. My bed. Me in it. Her at the foot of it, closer than she'd ever been, like she'd been waiting for this specific moment. Knife already moving. Her shoulders bouncing fast, giggling, and something else was different. Nolan was there too, not in real life. In the dream, he was standing by my bed, looking down at me, confused, like he just walked into the wrong room. He turned his head slowly, like he sensed someone. And he saw her. I saw it from above and inside at the same time, like my mind had split to show me how bad it could get. Nolan's face in the dream went slack with shock. His mouth opened like he was about to yell. But no sound came. Not from him. Not from me. Dream rules. The woman's grin stretched wider, like she was pleased. And she turned the knife. Not toward me. Toward Nolan. My eyes flew open in the real world, and I screamed his name so loud my throat tore. Nolan jumped back like I'd spit fire. What did you see? She went for you. I choked out. She went for you. You don't. He stared at me like I'd lost the last of my sanity. What are you talking about? I saw you, I said, panting. In there. She saw you. Nolan's face shifted from fear to anger. You're trying to scare me into leaving. No, he snupped. I'm trying to keep you alive. He stepped forward, furious now because fear turns to anger when you don't want to admit you're scared. I'm right fucking here. She doesn't care where you are, I said. If you get in the angle, if you end up in the... I couldn't even say dream because it felt too soft for what it was. She'll use you. She'll do it to punish me. Nolan's jaw clenched. He looked around, then back at me. Okay, then what? You want me to leave you alone so you can keep torturing yourself? I want you to stop touching my face, I hissed. My eyelids were trembling. Without the tape, it was a countdown. Nolan stood there breathing hard. For a second, I thought he might grab me again, might force me into his car, might do the whole for your own good thing. Then quietly, he said 4 blinks. What? I whispered. He pulled a Post-it from his pocket. He must have grabbed it when I freaked out earlier. He held it up between us like a tiny flag. 4 blinks. You think that's instruction? He said. Not a warning. I don't know. He swallowed. What if it's the only way to see something you're missing? My stomach turned, because deep down, part of me had been circling that idea all day like a dog around a dead thing. That there was a key in this. That there was a reason the dream used to cut. That maybe the cut was a kindness, and now the kindness was gone, and the only way out was through the part I'd been spared. Nolan's voice went softer. You said the dream always ends before the knife hits. Until last night. Yeah. And then you woke up because something stopped it? Or you snapped out of it? I don't know. He nodded slowly. So maybe the rules aren't just to avoid her. Maybe they're to interact, to force a change. My whole body wanted to reject that. I didn't want to play her game. I didn't want to learn her controls. But I was so tired. And the idea that there could be an exit, any exit, was like a drug. Nolan took a breath. Do it. 4 blinks. I'll stand right here. I'll watch you. If you start to fall, I'll grab you. I stared at him. If I don't open my eyes in time, then we'll deal with it, he said, and his voice was shaking now too. But you're going to pass out anyway. I'd rather you do something on purpose than let your body do it by accident. I hated that he was right. I hated that he'd ripped the tape off me, because now there was no going back to that miserable safe holding pattern. Now I was naked to my own eyelids. I swallowed, tasting metal. Stand in front of me, I said. Nolan frowned. Why? So I can focus on you, I said. So you can slap me if I drift. He stepped close, right in my field of view. His face was pale. His eyes were wide. He looked like a guy about to ride a roller coaster he didn't want to ride. Okay, he said. Do it. I sucked in a breath. Blink 1. Darkness snapped up with her like a trap. Ceiling angle, kid room, knife overhead, shoulders bouncing. Blink 2. Another room. Different kid. Same woman. Same knife. Closer than she'd been a second ago. Like each blink skipped time. Blink 3. My room. My bed. Me in it. Her right at the edge now. Knife already starting down. Her smile filling the whole world. Blink 4. Something changed. It didn't just cut to another room. It didn't just loop. The angle dropped. I wasn't at the ceiling anymore. I was behind her, but lower. Closer. Close enough to smell her. She smelled like old pennies and wet cloth. Like blood that's been sitting. Like a basement. Her hair was so close, I could see individual strands stuck together with something dark. And I could finally see what she was holding besides the knife. In her left hand, The one I never paid attention to because the knife always stole focus. She held a piece of paper. A crumpled incident report. One of those generic forms with little check boxes and lines for notes. I saw my own name on it. My stomach dropped so hard I felt like I was falling. The paper was smeared with fingerprints and dark stains. But the print was readable enough. Client, my name, complaint, recurrent nightmares / visual episodes. Notes, do not allow client to sleep unsupervised. My eyes flew open in the real world, so hard it hurt. I gasped like I'd been held underwater. Nolan grabbed my shoulders. What? What happened? I stared at him wild-eyed. I saw a report. What report? About me? I rasped. With my name. In her hand. Nolan's face tightened. That's impossible. I know, I snapped. I know what I saw. My eyelids fluttered. I couldn't stop them. They were doing that desperate little tremble before they close. Nolan swore. Okay, we need tape. No, I said, and it came out like a plea and a threat at once. Tape won't save me. It just delays it. Delay is good, Nolan insisted. Delay keeps you alive. And what? I snapped, voice cracking. Until when? Until my eyes rot out of my head. Nolan stared at me, and I could see him realizing there wasn't a good answer. My mind was racing, but it was racing through fog. Incident report. My name. Do not allow client to sleep unsupervised. Who wrote that? The sleep clinic? The doctor? Someone else? I remembered the generic sheet on my fridge. I remembered how calm the sleep doctor's face had been until I described the dreams. That tiny fracture. What if he'd seen this before? What if there were files? Procedures. Real rules, not my desperate sharpest scrawl. I grabbed Nolan's arm. My fingers were cold. We're going there. To the clinic? Now. Yes, I said, and my voice came out harsh. Right now. Before I drop. It's the middle of the night. I don't care. He hesitated. They'll call security. Let them, I snapped. If they sedate me, you don't let them. You hear me? You don't let them. Nolan's jaw clenched. I'm not going to fight nurses. Then you'll watch me die, I said. That got him moving. We drove with every light in the car on like that mattered. Nolan drove too fast. I sat in the passenger seat staring at the road because looking down made my lids heavy. My hands were clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. I blinked twice fast now and then to clear the burn, and each time I saw her, closer, shoulders bouncing faster, like she was excited I was finally doing something. Rule 6. If you see her shoulders moving faster, stand up immediately. I couldn't stand up in a car. I shifted anyway, like a stupid ritual. Nolan glanced at me and tightened his grip on the wheel. The clinic was dark when we got there. Of course it was. Most places that help you sleep don't stay open at 3 a.m. We tried the door. Locked. Nolan looked at me. See? Now what? My eyelids fluttered. The world swayed. We find another entrance. There isn't. Help me. I snapped, and it came out ugly. Don't fucking stop now. We walked around the building. My legs felt like rubber. The cold air bit my eyes and made them water. The sidewalk lights flickered, and my brain hated it. We found a side door, also locked. A security camera stared down at us like a dead eye. Nolan muttered, "This is not." "Shut up," I hissed. Just look." There was a window next to the door. Inside, dim emergency lighting. A hallway. A desk. And on the desk, lit by the faint glow, was a stack of papers. My heart lurched because my brain will latch onto anything. Nolan saw my gaze. "You're not breaking in." "I'm not," I lied. I absolutely was. I grabbed a rock from the landscaping bed, my fingers clumsy and numb. Nolan grabbed my wrist. "Dude," he said, low and urgent. "If we leave, I'm done," I whispered. He stared at my face. He saw the sweat, the tremble, the way my eyelids were fighting. He saw, finally, that I wasn't being dramatic. I was being hunted by my own body. He let go. I smashed the window. The sound was huge. Glass spiderwebbed and fell in glittering chunks. My ears rang. Somewhere inside, an alarm chirped and then started wailing. Nolan cursed loud. Fuck, go. I snapped and climbed through awkwardly, careful not to slice my hands. I didn't feel pain right away anyway. Adrenaline was doing its job. We were inside. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and stale air. The lights were dim. Shadows sat in corners like they had weight. I kept thinking about mirrors, about reflections, about seeing her in glass. Nolan grabbed my arm. We have like 90 seconds before. I don't care, I said, and stumbled toward the desk. The papers were there. Clipboards, forms, appointment logs. My hands shook as I flipped through them, half blind from tears. I saw my name. Not just once. More than once. My stomach turned. There was a folder, thin like a new file. My name printed on a label. I yanked it open. Inside was an intake sheet I recognized. My answers. My signature. My dumb attempts to make it normal. And behind it, stapled, was an incident report. Client, my name, date. A date from months ago, the first week I came in. Incident. Client reported visual episodes associated with blinking. Client became agitated when advised to rest. Client stated, if I sleep, IT will happen. Action. Advise client to seek emergency psychiatric evaluation. Client refused. Operational note. Do not administer sedatives unless client is restrained and eyes are physically supported open. Do not leave client alone in darkroom. Do not allow client to close eyes for assessment. Additional pattern matches prior cases. See attached. My hands went cold. Prior cases, I whispered. Nolan leaned over my shoulder. This is real. It's real, I said, and my voice sounded like it was coming from far away. Attached, there were copies. Old reports. Names redacted in places. Dates going back years. Every report had the same language in different words. Same theme. Recurring dream of a woman in a child's room. Knife. Loop. Transcending to waking blinks. Escalation. Final event. Final event. I didn't want to read the final event sections. I read them anyway because I'm me and I hate myself. One said the client was found dead in bed with eyes taped open, tape peeled loose, knife wounds that didn't match any blade found in the room. Another said the client gouged their own eyes out and still reported continued visual episodes in darkness. That line made my stomach flip so hard I gagged. Nolan cursed under his breath. This is insane. There's more. I rasped, flipping faster. Then I saw a familiar phrase. 4 blinks. It was written in the margin of one report in a different hand, like someone had added it later. Underlined twice. Next to it, angle shift. My knees went weak. I grabbed the desk to keep from collapsing. Nolan saw my face. What? 4 blinks isn't. I swallowed. It's a procedure. Nolan stared. The alarm kept wailing. Somewhere deeper in the building, a door slammed. Voices shouted. We didn't have time, but my brain didn't care about time. It cared about this file, this proof that it wasn't just me. I flipped to the attached page the report referenced. It was a photocopy of a handwritten note, like someone had torn it from a pad. It listed 7 operational notes. Not mine, but so close it made my skin crawl. Never close eyes to rest. Not even for a count of 3. If blinking triggers episodes, do not attempt to test with prolonged closure. Keep light sources in peripheral field after dusk. Avoid mirrors and reflective surfaces after midnight. Do not observe sleeping children, photos, video in person. If shoulder movement accelerates, change posture/position immediately. If laughter is perceived without source, lock nearest door. Do not search. I stared at it, dizzy. My rules weren't mine. Or maybe they were mine because something had been feeding them to me, drip by drip, until I wrote them like I invented them. Nolan whispered, holy shit. I couldn't breathe. I could feel my eyelids getting heavier like gravity was increasing. A line at the bottom of the photocopy was circled. 1 deceptively safe behavior increases risk of acceleration. Rapid multi-blink attempts. My mouth went dry. Rule 1. The double blink. The thing I thought was safe. It wasn't safe. It was a trap. It didn't blur her. It skipped time. It made her closer faster. It trained her to move in the gaps. I'd been helping her. Nolan grabbed my shoulders and shook me hard. Hey, we have to go. Now. I blinked once, involuntary. In the darkness, I saw her not in a kid's room, not in my room, in a clinic hallway, standing at the end, turned slightly, like she'd been waiting for me to find the file. Knife in her hand, report in the other. Her shoulders bouncing so fast, it was like she was shaking with laughter. I opened my eyes and stumbled backward. She's here, I croaked. Nolan's face tightened. No, she's not. Move. He dragged me. We ran, stumbled back the way we came. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. The alarm screamed. My heart hammered. We burst out through the broken window like animals escaping a trap. Cold air slapped my face. Nolan yanked me toward the car. Behind us, in the dim clinic hallway, I saw movement through the glass. Not guards, not staff. A tall white shape gliding closer, no sound, no rush. Just certainty. Nolan threw me into the passenger seat and slammed the door. He ran around, got in, started the car. His hand was shaking so hard he fumbled the keys twice. Drive, I hissed. I am, he snapped. The car lurched forward. We peeled out of the parking lot like we'd robbed the place, which I guess we had. Nolan glanced at me, eyes wild. What the fuck was that? She's attached to the files, I whispered. My brain was slipping again, thoughts sliding. She's attached to the angle. The clinic knows. They knew. Nolan's voice went rough. So what do we do? I stared straight ahead at the road. Street lights were a strobe. My eyelids fluttered in rhythm with them. It felt like being hypnotized. We don't use the double blink, I said, voice thin. Nolan laughed, a cracked sound. That's your takeaway? It makes her faster, I snapped. It's in the note. Nolan gripped the wheel harder. Okay, fine. No double blink. Great. So what? You just never blink again. I didn't answer because we both knew. My head dipped. Nolan saw it and yelled my name. He slapped my shoulder hard. Pain flared. I snapped upright. My eyes were burning. The inside of my skull felt hot, like my brain was cooking. We got to Nolan's place because I couldn't tell him where else to go. My apartment felt poisoned now. The clinic felt poisoned. The whole world felt like a hallway leading to my bed. Nolan's place was smaller, darker. He turned on every light. He taped cardboard over his mirrors because he didn't trust towels. He sat me on his couch and shoved water at me. Drink, he ordered. I drank. My hand shook so bad I spilled. I didn't care. He paced. He kept checking his phone like he wanted to call someone and hated himself for wanting it. You broke into a clinic, he said suddenly, like his brain finally caught up. We broke into a clinic. I don't care. We could get arrested. I don't care. I repeated, and this time it came out flat. If I sleep, I die. Nolan stared at me. Then he said, what if the report is wrong? I almost laughed. It's not wrong. You don't know, he insisted, and he sounded like he was begging now. You're assuming the worst. I've watched her raise that knife over sleeping kids for months, I said. My voice shook. I watched my own death on loop. I've seen her in my room. I saw you in there. I saw her in the clinic hallway. How much more proof do you want? Nolan swallowed, eyes wet. He blinked fast and looked away like he hated himself for almost crying. He sat across from me again, leaning forward, elbows on knees. Okay, for blinks. My stomach tightened. You did it outside, he said. You did it and you saw the report. Angle shift. So do it again. On purpose. Controlled. Maybe you can take the paper from her. Maybe you can see her face without being in the bed. Maybe you can. No. You snuck but. No. The note says multi-blink accelerates risk. It says rapid multi-blink attempts, he argued. Not 4 blinks as procedure. 4 blinks is in the notes. You don't know the difference. I don't know anything. Nolan snapped back, frustrated. I'm trying to keep you alive. That's not how you keep me alive, I hissed. That's how you make her closer faster. Nolan slammed his fist into his thigh. So what's your plan then? Tape again. I stared at him. The idea of tape felt pathetic now, like putting a Band-Aid on a guillotine. But the alternative was letting my eyelids close, even for a second. So I nodded slowly. Tape. Nolan stood and grabbed a roll from his junk drawer. He came back, hands trembling. This is crazy. Yeah, I whispered. He taped my eyelids open again. The adhesive bit. My skin screamed. Tears poured. I didn't flinch because I couldn't afford to. For a few minutes, I felt that sick relief again, like the countdown had been paused. Then my body adapted. It always adapts. My head started dipping again anyway, eyes open, staring at nothing. My brain slipping into micro sleeps, even without eyelids. Like it didn't need the darkness anymore. That's when I realized something that made me cold all the way through. The danger wasn't just closing my eyes. The danger was losing myself. Because the dream wasn't a dream anymore. It was a place my mind went when it wasn't fully present. When it slid, and I was sliding. Nolan saw it. He kept shaking my shoulders. He kept making me talk. He kept asking questions. But my answers started coming out wrong. My words slurred. My thoughts looped. At one point, I heard giggling. Not loud. Not in the room. Not from Nolan. Inside, the tape-held stare of my eyes. Rule 7 flashed. I stood up so fast I almost fell. Nolan grabbed me. What? Lock, I whispered. Lock what? Door, I croaked. Nolan looked around like he was trying to interpret a drunk person. Then he remembered the rule list I'd brought with me, crumpled now, and his face changed. He went and locked his front door. He locked the chain. He locked the deadbolt. Then he checked it twice. The giggling didn't stop. It got closer. My eyes were wide open, and I could still see the edge of my vision darkening in waves, like my brain was dimming the lights anyway. Nolan came back and stood in front of me, hands on my shoulders. Stay with me. I tried. I swear I tried. But something was happening that felt like gravity doubling. My head kept wanting to drop. My thoughts kept turning to mush. The tape was holding my lids, but my consciousness was slipping out from under it. And in that slipping, the ceiling angle sensation rose up like an elevator. Suddenly, I wasn't in Nolan's living room anymore. I was above, ceiling corner, her below, not a kid's room, Nolan's living room. Nolan standing there, hands on my shoulders, but in this angle he looked smaller, like a doll. And the woman, she wasn't in the middle of the bedroom this time. She was in the middle of the living room, between us and the locked door. Knife in her hand, report in the other. Her face turned just enough that I could see the stitched smile, the torn nose, the blood. Her eyes like holes. And her shoulders, Jesus, her shoulders were bouncing like she was laughing so hard she might break. I tried to yank myself back, try to force my brain into the awake world. I heard Nolan's voice like it was underwater. Hey, don't drift. Don't. I fought. I fought like you fight to stay above water when your lungs are burning. My eyes were still open in the real world, but I was losing control of what open meant. In the ceiling angle, the woman took a step toward Nolan. I didn't have a voice there. I didn't have limbs. I had nothing but watching. I tried to obey my own rule. Change posture. Stunt. Move. In the real world, my body swayed. Nolan tightened his grip. In the angle, she raised the knife. And for the first time in months, there was no cut. No merci. The knife started down. Nolan's mouth opened, his face shifting into terror, but no sound came out because the angle doesn't care about sound. My brain screamed. 4 blinks. It hit me like a command, not written on paper now, but hammered into my skull. 4 blinks shifts the angle. 4 blinks is a procedure, not to make her closer, to get closer to her, to stop being a spectator. In the real world, my taped open eyes couldn't blink, but I could tear them shut. I could force it. I could do the one thing I'd been avoiding like it was death itself. Nolan shook me. Don't close your eyes. She's going to kill you. I choked out, and my voice sounded broken even to me. He froze. What? She's right there. I whispered. In the room. Nolan's face went pale. He looked around, wild, seeing nothing. He looked back at me like I was a bomb. I did anyway. I ripped the tape off my face with both hands. Pain flared white hot. Leshes Tura. Skin screamed. My eyelids slammed shut. Darkness hit like a wave. I blinked hard inside the dark. 1. Ceiling angle snapped sharper. 2. The world shifted closer. 3. I wasn't above anymore. I was behind her, so close I could smell her wet, metallic stink. 4. The angle dropped fully. I was in the room, not watching, in it. My feet on Nolan's carpet, my lungs pulling stale air. My hands real. Her head turned slowly toward me. That stitched smile widened like she'd been waiting for this moment for months. Like this was what the whole loop was building toward. Her eyes locked on mine, and there was recognition there that made my stomach turn. Not like, oh, you finally showed up. Like, oh, there you are. I remember you. I don't know why that hit me so hard, but it did. It felt like being seen by something that should not know your name. In her left hand, she still held the incident report. The paper crinkled like it was alive. In her right, the knife gleamed. I should have run. I should have done anything. Instead, I lunged for the paper. It was stupid and desperate, but it was the only thing in my head. Take the proof away. Take the rule away. Take whatever anchor she's using. My fingers closed on the report. It felt cold, damp, like it had been sitting in a freezer. She giggled, actually giggled this time, a thin, wet sound, and yanked it back with impossible strength. The knife lifted. I threw my hands up and screamed, and no, like it mattered. The blade came down, and I snapped my eyes open. I was back in Nolan's living room, standing there with tape strips hanging from my fingers like dead skin. Nolan was staring at me with horror and anger and disbelief all mixed together. And he was bleeding, a thin line down his forearm, like he'd been cut by something sharp. Not a deep wound, not fatal, but real, fresh, red. Nolan stared at his own arm like he couldn't understand it. Then he looked at me. "What did you do?" he whispered. My blood went cold, because the cut meant it wasn't just in my head. It meant the angle was bleeding into the real world. It meant every time I slipped, it wasn't just me at risk. It was whoever was near me. Nolan's voice rose, shaking. "You said she was going to kill me." "I saw it," I whispered. "You're doing this," he snapped, stepping toward me, voice cracking. "You're making it happen." "No," I said, and tears spilled again because my eyes were raw and my body was broken. "I'm trying to stop it." He looked like he wanted to hit me. Then he looked like he wanted to hug me. Then he just looked exhausted. He grabbed a towel and wrapped it around his arm, pressing hard. His hands were shaking. "I can't," he started, then stopped, swallowing. "I can't do this." "I know," I whispered. He stared at me, eyes wet now, no hiding it. "If I leave, you die. If you stay," I said, voice thin, "you might die too." He wiped his face hard, angry at himself. Fuck. We both stood there under two bright lights with an invisible woman laughing somewhere behind my eyelids. Nolan made the decision I couldn't make. He went to his closet and grabbed a camping headlamp. He strapped it to my forehead so the beam pointed wherever I looked. "There," he said harshly, "light in your peripheral. Rule 2. You want rules, you get rules." Then he grabbed a chair and dragged it right in front of me. "See, I'm sitting here. I'm not touching your face again. But if you start to drift, I'm going to talk you through it. And if you close your eyes, I'm going to be ready to," his voice broke, "to pull you back." I sat because my legs were shaking so hard I couldn't stand anyway. Time crawled. I don't know how long we sat like that. 2 hours. 4. My sense of time was gone. My eyes kept trying to close. My brain kept trying to dim the world. I'd feel myself slip, feel the ceiling angle rising, and Nolan would smack my shoulder and bark my name and yank me back. But each time, the slipping got easier. Like the path was worn now. And each time I caught a glimpse of her, her shoulders moved faster. Closer, closer. The headlamp light didn't stop anything. It just made the shadows sharper. It made corners look deeper. It made me feel like I was already in a spotlight, already being watched. At some point, the giggling started again, faint and sour. Nola heard it too. I know he heard it because his face went white and he looked around the room like a trapped animal. "You hear that?" he whispered. I nodded, throat tight. It's not you," he said, and it sounded like he was convincing himself. "No, he whispered. It's not me." Nolan stood up fast and locked the door again, even though it was already locked. Rule 7. Lock the nearest door. Don't search for it. We didn't search. We just sat there, listening to a laugh that didn't have a mouth. The eyes finally failed. Not a full close. Not a dramatic collapse. Just a slow, heavy slide, like curtains coming down. Nolan shouted my name. He shook my shoulders. Hard, but my brain had found a way around him. It was slipping without asking my eyelids for permission. The ceiling angle rose. I was above again. And this time, it wasn't a room. It was Nolan's living room, yes, but it was also every kid's bedroom at once, layered on top of it like transparent film. Toys in corners that weren't there. Posters on walls that weren't his. A child's bed overlapping his couch. And the woman stood in the middle of it all like she belonged. Knife in her hand. And now, in her other hand, she held something else. My neon post-it, "Don't rest your eyes." She held it up like a joke, like a trophy. And on the back, in that thin, uneven writing, there were new words. "You did." My stomach dropped. She giggled louder, shoulders bouncing, and she turned her head toward me, toward the ceiling corner where I was trapped. Her mouth didn't move when she spoke, but I heard her anyway, inside my skull like a thought that wasn't mine. It sounded like a woman smiling through broken teeth. "Thank you," it said. My eyes flew open in the real world and I screamed, a raw sound that scared even Nolan. "What?" he yelled, panicked. "What did you see?" I couldn't tell him. The words wouldn't form. My mouth just shook. Nolan grabbed my hands. His eyes were wide and wet. You're fading, man. Tell me what to do." I stared at him, trying to keep my eyes open through sheer will, trying to hold onto the room, to his face, to the light. I thought about the reports. I thought about the clients found dead, eyes taped open, knife wounds nobody could explain. I thought about the one line that made my stomach flip. Reported continued visual episodes in darkness. If it's not the eyes, if it's the surrender, if it's the moment you stop fighting, then there's only one way this ends. I grabbed Nolan's wrists hard. "Listen," I rasped. If I go, if I drop, get away from me." "No," he said instantly. "Yes," I snapped, and the anger gave me a few more seconds. "You can't be near me when it happens. She'll use you again." Nolan's face twisted. "I'm not leaving you. You have to," I whispered. "You have to survive this so someone knows it's real." He stared at me like I'd just handed him a gun. "I'm serious," I said, voice breaking. "If you see my eyes close, get out. Lock yourself somewhere bright. Don't look at me sleeping. Don't give her the angle." Nolan shook his head slowly, like denial could change physics. "Fuck you," he whispered, and it wasn't mean. It was grief. My eyelids trembled. My vision narrowed. The headlamp beam wobbled on the wall. My throat closed. Nolan's hands tightened on mine, like he could anchor me with skin. I wanted to tell him I was sorry. I wanted to tell him to run. I wanted to tell him I loved him in the ugly way men don't say out loud until it's too late. Instead, I just whispered, "I can't." My eyelids finally slid shut. Darkness flooded up. Ceiling angle. My room. My bed. Me in it. Her so close her hair brushed my face. Knife above her head. No cut. No mercy. Her smile stretching. Threads biting into skin. Eyes like holes, shoulders bouncing with joy. And behind her, I saw Nolan in the doorway of my room, frozen, watching. Rule 5 screamed in my head, "Don't look at children sleeping," but now I understood it wasn't about children. It was about watching, about being in the angle, about feeding it. Nolan was watching. She turned her head slightly, like she smelled him. The knife paused. Her giggle deepened. As she looked back at me, the blade came down. I felt the impact like a shock, not pain at first, just a hard, cold punch straight through my chest. My breath exploded out. My body jerked. My eyes snapped open in the real world for 1 second, wide and blind with terror. Nolan was standing over me on his couch, his face twisted in horror, his hands hovering like he didn't know where to touch without making it worse. There was blood on my shirt, real blood. I tried to inhale and couldn't. My lungs made this wet sucking sound. My vision tunneled. Nolan shouted something. My name maybe, but the sound was far away, like he was yelling from the bottom of a pool. My eyelids fluttered. I tried to hold them open. I tried to fight, but my body was done. My brain was done. The switch flipped whether I wanted it or not. Darkness again, and she was there again, still giggling, still raising the knife like she could do it forever in the space between my blinks. I understood then why the dream used to cut before the blade hit. It wasn't my mind protecting me. It was her saving the fun. Because the point wasn't the stab. The point was the loop. The point was making me watch. Over and over and over. And now that it had started in the real world, now that the blood was real, there was no reason for her to stop. Nolan's face flashed in my mind. The way he looked when he realized he could hear the giggling too. If he could hear it, he could be pulled into it. If he was pulled into it, he'd become another report, another file, another name on a page she carries like a souvenir. My fingers fumbled on the couch cushion, searching, finding my phone because I'd been clutching it earlier like an anchor. I don't remember unlocking it. Muscle memory did it for me. I don't remember opening anything. My hands were shaking. My vision was swimming. But I remember one thing very clearly, because it felt like the last decision I'd ever make. I started typing. I typed with my eyes forced open by pure panic, blinking fast, not 4, not 2, just enough to keep consciousness from slipping. I typed because if she was going to loop me, if she was going to keep coming every time my eyelids dropped, then the only thing I could do was leave this behind. Not as a story, not as a warning, as an incident report of my own. Nolan kept saying my name. He kept pressing a towel to my chest. He kept begging me to stay awake. I wanted to tell him it was too late. My eyelids are getting heavy again. The room is going soft. The giggling is right behind my eyes now, like she's leaning close to whisper in my skull. If you're reading this, don't do what I did. Don't double blink like it's safe. Don't stare at sleeping kids on screens. Don't think you can outsmart something that lives in the dark between seconds. And if you ever see a post-it move when you know you didn't touch it, if you ever find writing on the back that you didn't write, don't treat it like a mystery. Treat it like someone already tried to survive and failed and left you a breadcrumb because they couldn't leave anything else. My eyes are closing again. I can feel her in the angle. I can feel the knife lifting. I can feel her shoulders bouncing, bouncing, bouncing.